come back. Gotcha! Oh man. Oh. Tell you what, my drag's going a little bit. Beach fishing the storm, or at least just before the storm. Hi, my name's Roger Osborne. I'm back down at the beach, and really I just want to catch some fish for the table, but I have a definite strategy which I'll be sharing with you while I'm fishing and teaching you everything that I'm doing, and of course I'll show you my tackle as well. Stick around to the end for a free PDF download which will outline some vital keys from today's session. And remember, if you haven't subscribed already, it's absolutely free and it really helps my channel and I appreciate it. Let's get into it. So I've popped down the beach. I want to get some nice fish for the table, but the conditions are a little bit challenging. There's actually a cyclone approaching up north on the border of pretty much between New South Wales and Queensland. However, it is so much further south than cyclones normally come, and they've been talking about it in Sydney. It's going to impact our coast. The waves are already building and getting bigger, so I've got to get in before those waves get massive and just totally turn it into a washing machine. So I'm hoping to catch a couple of fish. I've got 2 rods with me. All I have is baits out of my freezer. I don't have any fresh worms. I've got some frozen salted worms. I've got some garfish that I caught recently, and I've got some pilchards and some squid, actually, 4 different baits. So I'm gonna have a fish now. My first rod, I'm kind of doing a mixed grill. I'm actually using the world's deadliest rig on the bottom, and I'm putting a salted frozen worm on the top, so that should be pretty cool. That's what I'm gonna start off with. And you know, this little gutter down here, it's absolutely loaded with mullet. It's incredible. It's like mullet city in there, and I walk up and I see all those mullet there, you know, like about a foot long or 30 centimeters long. And I'm just going, oh my gosh, you know, the Jewies are gonna love that. It's like it's gonna be a Jewy fest on mullet. But as I was walking along this beach, every little pocket of water is loaded with mullet. And it's actually low tide right now, and there's not much water out there, it's pretty shallow. But I want to whack my bait line out there. The sun's getting low, not a lot of sunlight left. So I'll just toss these pilchards out there. There you go. Got to put this on. Just quickly, if you're as passionate about fishing as I am, and you really want to improve and enjoy it even more, why don't you join Roger's Fishing Online Fishing Club, my membership. I've got some amazing people who are members, and we all share our information with each other. There's so much content on there. There's all my fishing courses, plus there's a heap of stuff that's not available on YouTube. And there's no lock-in contracts. You can leave anytime you want. So head on over to rogersfishing.com and check it out. So I'm going to start off with a bit of salted worm. There's only about 3 worms in this little packet that I put in the freezer. But you can see there's some bits of worm there, enough to whack on my hook. So that's enough to start off with. So I just put my little bag of worms in my bait bucket. I'm going to put half a pilchard on as well on my bottom rig. So I'll have the 2 different baits, a pilchard bait and a worm bait. So just going to grab one of these pillies. I'm going to use the tail in. I'm just going to trim the tail a little bit. Probably use about that much of the pilchard, so that'll be my other bait. So I'll be using worm on one bait and pilchard on the other. So I've made up a couple of the world's deadliest rigs. I've got a video called The World's Deadliest Rig. It's pretty epic. A lot of guys have been having some amazing success using this rig. I know one guy sent me a photograph. He caught a beautiful mulloway using this rig the first time he ever used it. I think the fish was over a metre. It was a decent fish. So I just have a wire trace. The reason I'm using this is when the tailor are around, it's a pain when you get bitten off. And using this rig doesn't stop you from catching all the other species, but at least it stops you from getting bitten off by a shark or a toothy critter like a tailor. So I'm putting, it's a 2-hook rig. It's got a 4.0 main hook and it has a size 2 stinger. which I just pin in the bottom end of the bait. I just get that stinger, just got to wiggle it a bit, hook it through the tail end of the bait like that. So I've got one barb coming out one side and one barb coming out the other side. So that's that one. And then I'm going to put that a bit of beach worm. This is actually 3 little pieces of worm, look at that, but it's salted, so yeah, it's good actually, because when you salt them, they go just a little bit tougher. They stay on the hook a bit better. So I actually only need those 2 little pieces. I don't need more than that on there. So I'll put that other bit back in my pocket. So I'm going to toss these two little baits just in this little gutter out here. It's not very deep. I mean, I'd really only rate it, as far as a fishing spot, I'd really only rate it about a 5 out of 10. I think the fact that there's a lot of bait fish out there is a little bit of a bonus, but we'll just see if there's anything underneath those mullet. I've just popped my bait. There's a sandbar just out there, and then the water drops off the sandbar into the deep water. I just landed right on the edge of the sandbar, almost up on the tabletop, and my bait just dropped over that little edge, which is always a great spot. So let's just see if we get any bites. I really hope I do, because we love eating our fish. And just so that you guys know, I mean, I don't really talk about it, but I never just fish to catch the bag limit. You know, I don't just keep catching fish because I can. I only catch what I want to eat, really, and I let the other ones go. So I'm just content with enough for a meal or two. Now, I haven't had a bite yet, but anything could happen. The wind is onshore at the moment, and the blue bottles are back. There hasn't been any blue bottles for the last month or so, but walking along the beach, there's hundreds today. So I'm just keeping my eyes open in case any get washed up and want to wrap themselves around my leg. And also my wonderful camera person, don't want her to get wrapped up either. You know, at this time of the year in Australia, we can get some cyclones, but they're nearly always up north, really in the top half of Queensland. But we've got this cyclone at the moment that is just edging into New South Wales, which is pretty rare. And when there's a cyclone up north, we always feel the effects of it down here. We don't get the same amount of, you know, it's pretty difficult for the people who live there, but we get the swell. Certainly the waves, you know, they reverberate all the way down the coast. So we get the effect of it even though the cyclones are up north, but this one's really close for us. It's a lot closer than usual. I actually had some clients I was taking fishing in Sydney this weekend, but I've had to cancel it because of the bad weather and the rough weather, because we're going to have really big waves, strong winds, rain. Not really very good for taking people fishing. So I've had to put things on hold with that. But I'm just trying to get in before the worst of it hits. I caught some small garfish, so I'm going to actually just toss my other line out and leave it sitting out there while I'm having a fish with my other line, just to double my chances before it gets dark. So I'm going to put this guy on. I'm just using 3-ganged hooks, so I'm going to line them up with the top one going through the garfish's eye. And then I'm going to break the beak off the garfish before I chuck it out, because it causes them to twist, to spin in the water. I want to put that last one through his eye, and then I'm just going to break that beak off, and then he's ready to go. So I'm just going to let it sit out there, because I might catch something. May as well have 2 lines out. I'm pretty happy with where that landed. So I'm just going to let this one sit there. I'm just going to do a bit of prospecting. I've had 2 casts so far and I haven't had a bite. So I'm not going to toss it out again in the same spot. I'm going to just move around a little bit and let this one catch the fish for me. Now I'll grab my other rod. I can just feel a few spits of rain actually. There's some big clouds coming from the south as well. So hopefully it doesn't get heavy. I think it'll just blow past. Now I've actually got a situation here where I have a little bit of a gutter or a trough here that's running out into the middle, and there's one on my right hand side. It's like a V. There's a trough on the right hand side coming out and they're both meeting in the middle. The only thing is that because of the swell and the low tide, out behind this is just a whole lot of sand and white water. There's not really a clear passage for bigger fish to come in. You can see out the back there, it's just all broken up. No, there isn't really a nice deep pathway for bigger fish to kind of, like a little road for them to come in and out. It's pretty, I'd much rather see the deep, or like a clear opening heading out beyond the back waves, but I'm just going to try tossing out the middle, then I might go over on the right hand side. I'll just mix it up a little bit. We'll see if it drifts around much. But I'll need to walk into the water a little bit in the middle here just to get out where I want to go. So as the water sucks out just now, I'll take advantage of it while it's just doing that and just give it a bit of a hard pelt straight out. I had to put just a little bit of muscle into that cast just to get beyond this shallow a bit. Just looking to see if I could see any beach worms. I could see a couple then. Very often just your foot odour is enough to bring the beach worms running, depending on how long you've had your socks on. So my line has actually drifted from where I threw it out. It's drifted over to the right. So that's interesting. That'll influence where I cast next time. I think I'll walk along a little bit further. Whoa! I felt a tentacle wrap around my foot then. Oh, they're everywhere! Just checking out my rod. It had a bit of a bend in it. Okay, so it's moved a bit from where I first cast it, but it's all right. I'll leave it there. Putting another piece of pilchard on. My big rod has really got sucked over to the right. I don't know if something's taken the bait or if there's even something on it, but I will have a look. I can't feel anything on it. I think it's just got carried down by the current. It's interesting. My garfish bait is intact, so haven't had a bite. Just going to whack it back out there again. That'll do. That garfish hadn't been touched, so I'll leave it there. Hopefully it doesn't get carried away again too much. The water's a little bit deeper here, so it might be a bit more fishy. That was a good cast, but I saw my sinker and worm go in one direction and I saw my pilchard go in another direction. So I think I'm going to need to wind it back in and put another piece of pilchard on. Bummer. I'd already thrown that pilchard out once. Must have got a little bit kind of a bit dislodged off the hooks. So I'm going to wind it back in again and put another pilchard on. I was just feeding the fish then. So those hooks came back clean. No bait on there. So I'm going to put this half pilchard and put the hook through that end all the way through. Pull it through and then just put it through the middle of the pilchard and then pull that tight like that. See the barb of the hook there. Then I'm going to use this stinger hook and pin it in the tail with the stinger hook like that. Beautiful. Now hopefully that stays on this time. I'm sure it will. I did put a bit of oomph into the cast, so the water is actually really quite warm. Yeah, that's out there. I like to load my fishing rod on the backswing just to really get that rod loaded up and get that kick from the fishing rod when I'm casting. It's a really important thing to do. It doesn't matter what type of fishing you're doing, but to use the inherent spring and flex that's in the rod to help propel your bait. You do that when you're using soft plastics as well, but just in a smaller way when you're flicking and casting. Oh, that was a bite. Come back. Gotcha! Oh, man. Oh. Tell you what, my drag's going a little bit. I was beginning to think, when am I going to get a bite? There's quite a current out there pulling the fish, so it's like quite a strong tidal flow. Now the question is, did he take the pilchard or the worm? He feels all right. Whoa. I just saw a swirl in the water in amongst all the other busyness. It hasn't jumped out of the water. Oh, I jumped then. That gives you a little bit of a clue as to what it is. Oh, I jumped again. It's not a salmon, it's quite a large tailor. Look at that. This guy's pretty solid. That's a pretty decent tailor. Do you know what? There's no way I would have caught him unless I was using the world's deadliest rig. Just hold on. It's going to give him a bit of a clean up. Can you see how he has got that wire trace? He's completely engulfed it. If that was monofilament or if that was fluorocarbon, I wouldn't have got him in. He would have bitten me off probably a long time before I got him in near the shore. But that's a beautiful tailor. And actually fresh like that, they're fantastic to eat, so awesome. I've caught dinner. How good's that? He's pretty solid. He's actually quite thick. A really nice, what they call in America, they call them bluefish. He would be probably about 45 centimetres, I suppose, that guy, approximately. I'll take him back to my gear. But that gives me a little bit of encouragement that I might catch another fish. But at least I've caught a feed for my wife and myself, which is pretty awesome. You know, I caught an octopus the other day, and you know, octopus have 8 legs, right? So if they have 8 legs, how do they have 10 tickles? Do any of you kids out there know? Well, I caught that beautiful tailor, but I think it's the only fish in this gutter. It's the only bite that I've had, but I'm happy because just wanted to catch a fish for a meal, and the conditions are pretty average, really. So I'm just going to check my rod. It's got a bend in it. It's my set one. Well, I don't know whether it's got a fish or a huge chunk of weed. We'll find out. If you'd like a free PDF download of some vital keys from today's session, hit the link in the corner or in the description below. At the moment it feels more like weed than it does a fish. Not that I've hooked any weed. Yeah, I think it probably is weed, actually. I took the garfish off because I had my garfish on there. I had two casts with the garfish and it didn't get touched. So I replaced the garfish with a pilchard because I caught the tailor on half a pilchard. But I think I've got a big piece of weed. I might get surprised with a fish and a weed, who knows? It must be a big piece of weed. It's very heavy. It must be a huge piece of weed. This is strange. This is really strange. It feels like a big piece of weed, but it's so flippin' heavy. It almost feels like I'm snagged. I'm caught on a rock, but I'm in the middle of the beach, so how could I be caught on a rock? I'm pretty sure there's no rocks here. Look at my rod, it's bent double. Maybe it's a 500 kilo flathead. Oh man. Normally a piece of weed would be easier to bring in than this. I think it's some sort of weird, I don't think it's weed. I think it's some sort of weird creature. Feels like a really big Port Jackson shark or something, but let's see. I didn't think I had that much line out. Seriously, I didn't cast my line out that far. I think it's gone down the beach. I can see it, it's some sort of creature. Man, this is really surprising. I can see it splashing on the edge. Here it comes. What sort of rail thing is that? It's really stretching this 15 kilo line to the limit. Yeah, I think it's an eagle ray. Here comes a wave, I'll wash it in. Or I'll try to wash it up with it anyway. Here we go. Look at the size of this. That is a big eagle ray. There's no waves coming. Well, pretty big. Just watch his tails wrap right round the back. I don't really want to get whipped by it. You can actually see the barb on his tail at the back. There's that black line. Whoops, there it is, there it is. It's got a big barb on it. So I want to get him back in the water. These are so heavy, these things. Oop, I just broke the line, so he's going to be able to swim away. I just got to drag him into the water. This might get him away. That's it, buddy, off you go. So the end result was a really nice tailor and a flippin' big eagle ray, which took me halfway down the beach. It was super heavy, but he made it back out to sea safely. So not a bad session. At least I caught something to eat, that was my goal, to try and get a feed before the really bad weather hits. So thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time.